meeting to order. Roll call. We've got all members present tonight. I understand there are no additions to the agenda, so I entertain a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Motion by Lou, a second by Deb. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Move to approve or correct the minutes from the April 9th meeting.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
A second.
By Bruce and a second by Cheryl. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Financial reports. We've got the March treasurer's report and the monthly balance sheet.
Just a couple pieces on the expenditure report. If you take a look at the second page, the 909, which is negative 526, those are Carl Perkins dollars, and we get reimbursed for those. All right. The only other piece that might have been interested is the third page of minus $16. That's because we have a new van and it costs more for our insurance. So those are the only couple things that I thought would be of interest.
Do you have any questions on the financial reports? Entertain a motion to approve. Motion by Lou, and a second by Kellogg. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Same sign. Motion carries. On to the bills. We've got March and April bills.
Kind of a late month, this last month here, but I did go in this morning, or afternoon, one or two, okay. And I did review the additional March bills and the April bills, and I didn't see anything out of the norm for this time of the year, so I make a recommendation to approve the bills as they were written.
Okay, we have a motion by Mark to approve the bills.
Second.
And a second by Lou. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, we'll move on to business. We've got Ken Och here today to present some information concerning the FFA alumni.
Well, I see some new faces on the board from last year when I was here, and welcome you to the board. I'd like to thank the board, first of all, for supporting the FFA alumni and our plot out there and those types of things. I have a check here for the electrical use, which I should have given you a long time ago, but we have another project in the works. It's not ready for tonight, but I'll just touch on it. As some of you might have heard, there was some issues with irrigating the athletic fields and the plot last year. So we've been working with Matt and Max and come up with an idea of possibly putting in an extra well just for the plot. So that's the presentation we're working on, and it was supposed to be done for tonight, but it's not. And until we have all the paperwork done, and when that's done, we'll present it to the board. And I'm just letting you know what we're doing, so you'll have some time to think about it. And then I'd like to see your support on this, but it'd be entirely up to the board and what happens. And if you have any questions, we'll address it at the next time. I hope that we have, it's a major fundraiser for the FFA and the alumni. We support a lot of the kids for conventions and that sort of thing. And we have quite a bit of support in the community. All the influence leaders around here, you ask them for a piece of equipment, right there it is. They don't charge us for it. And they're always say we're willing to help. And so we would like to keep this going. You know, as long as the school lets us use the plot, you know. we want to work with athletics, and because the big thing is you want to keep your fields, your athletic fields up. They're doing a really good job on it from what I hear. The guys are working on it, and we want to see that. And they want to use more water, and we do, and so this is a proposal that we're coming up with.
And we also have a couple fields that don't get watered at all right now, that we'll certainly be talking about finding ways that we can get some piping over to it, and having another well would certainly allow us to irrigate some areas that right now we're not capable of irrigating. Some of the fields, I think particularly the 7th and 8th grade field, it's just like concrete, because we just don't get any water on it. So I think there's some real advantages to this type of project.
So what kind of well do we have right now over there? You know?
It's I believe it's about 8-inch well.
Yeah, it's a big one.
20, was drilled to 140, it's actually 125 feet deep.
Okay.
The developed well. Produces 150 gallons a minute. And what we have in mind is eventually to tie these two together with piping underground. So one well fails, so you can't water the fields, and then we can switch back and forth.
Okay.
You know, when we get all done with it, also the school owns everything, they own the well, and
Where is the well? The current well?
By the junior varsity, or baseball fields.
By the JV field?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's, we have one well that services everything.
Yeah.
Correct, yeah.
and originally when it was put in, it was fine, you know, but the athletic department has just taken off, and more fields and better condition they want it.
Yeah.
It's kind of a bonus for us though, because we don't have to buy water from them.
Oh, we wouldn't be able to irrigate the way we irrigate if we didn't have the well to be able to call on.
Okay, more on that when we're ready with it. One other thing that came to my attention is we have a gate trailer which we use for small animal days, and Natalie was just brought to my attention about insurance on that and who could drive that. Bob, I never got back to you on that, or I never kind of let slip, but we need to know if just the alumni can drive it, or if the students aren't allowed to haul this trailer, or and if you, as the board's gonna, or the school covers the insurance, which I thought that was the case, but we just need more information on that. And whatever it is, you know, we'll work it out.
Have you seen the thing though? So you know what it looks like?
I've seen it, yeah.
Okay, so that's just Donnie and I can work together and just get all the information I need, and we can take a look at that.
Okay?
How many feet long is that?
12.
Well,
So, I guess that's all I have for today.
Again, does the FFA own it, or does the school own it?
School owns it.
School owns it.
Yeah. Anything that the alumni has purchased or for the school use like that, gets donated to the school.
Okay.
I'm the treasurer.
They're all,
We'll check. I'm assuming we have the insurance on it, but I'll double check to make sure.
yeah, Natalie was saying something about who was able to approve the trailer.
Yeah, and that's a real liability issue that we'll have to get some more information on, and I think it's tougher and tougher, so really, technically, I'm assuming that we're gonna find out that it really should just be a district employee that
It's gonna end up, I think it's gonna end up being as to what vehicle it's hooked up to.
Yeah.
If it's a school vehicle, then it's gonna be the school's responsibility. If it's a
Yeah.
private vehicle,
then it can still be our responsibility to
it
some
could
degree.
be, but that's where you need to find
Yeah,
out.
that's the trouble, so we'll do some checking on that, and Ken and get you an answer.
Where does it go? To
It
the farms
takes,
to bring animals in or something?
no, it hauls our gates. We set up a fence, and then the kids actually pick up baby animals. One year they picked up a calf by me, and they have all different animals, and then the younger students in the elementary school come out and they explain what these animals do, and
So it's kind of just going from one school to the other mostly?
yeah. We use it several times a year. It's in the process of it being finished. We have seen pictures of it last night where all the gates are gonna sit in place and the shelving is in there for everything else.
Is somebody gonna be storing it, one of the alumni, or how is it gonna be stored on?
Right now, it's stored by alumni,
Okay.
but we're looking for a storage place, which we'll have to work out. And if nothing else, one of the alumni members will pull it back and forth, if that's allowable, you know, we'll find out.
Yeah, we'll do some checking.
So, of you that are here, what do you think of our plot out there?
Should be bigger.
What?
It should be bigger.
Get any more land?
No. But that, I mean, that would be nice if we'd have a little bit bigger plot for them, yeah.
What? We deal with what we have.
How big is it?
5 acres.
5 acres.
We actually have a waiting list of companies that want to put their corn in
Is that
there.
right?
We can't take anybody new unless somebody drops off, and nobody wants to drop off, so.
Good.
It seems like a successful program.
Great progress, very great program.
It's working out really well, and I, you know, I help when I can, you know, I'm busy, and the other guys that are farming full-time, they put a lot of work into it. We just want to make it easier, so there isn't no conflict, you know, there was a lot of switching last year, you know, who wanted the water win, and whatever happened, I think somebody was tampered with it. Somebody, not in our department or in the athletic department. There was ways of turning this thing on, and that I think is what caused the problem. And that's, if we establish a different one, that'll be all locked in key, there will be.
Who put the original one in? Was it the school or was it the
School Paynesville.
That was put in 1988. The original one, I mean, I graduated in 73, and we had plot irrigated out there then. But this new one was put in
But
88.
the old one was capped off, I think, in probably late 80, maybe early 90.
That could be.
Yeah,
I think that was a lot shallower well.
yeah, it was.
So was the purpose of the well for the ag plot originally or for the fields, or why was it put in?
Oh, it was used for the plots.
Yeah.
But we also had garden plots out there at one point, and they watered all those, and people would rent those plots, community rented them. And I remember Bill Ryan and myself, we did a lot of that watering.
Well, when I was in school, we had Nelson, what was his first name?
Richard.
Yeah, he was a ag teacher, and he took, I assume
He,
he took care of a lot.
Yeah. It was, yeah, but that's in the middle 70s.
So I graduated in 73. But anyhow, this is what's going on, and when we get all the numbers together, we're gonna come back. We hope to have it in this year, if it's okay.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, you guys have a good evening.
You too.
All right, review and consider approval of appropriate plan to make up the Kansas school days.
To say this has probably been the most interesting winter of my life would be probably an understatement. The winter's just been interesting. We've now lost a total of 7 days, 6 of those by weather-related pieces. I did give you a little bit of information on what Rotary does. This is their policy, and you have it in your packet. Theirs is very similar as far as what we do and how they do it. One of the things that they do, though, and I'm not sure we can certainly talk about it, I think there's some concerns, just if you look at the first page, second full paragraph, it says, when school has been canceled due to delayed administrative and full-time classified employees are expected to report to work as soon as roads are passable. My issue with that is that it's hard for me to say staff come in when I'm telling other people that they can't come in because the roads are too dangerous. So, but it's certainly something we can talk about. If you look at the back of your sheet, it is a reduced type of thing. I'll just kind of go over a little bit on how I make my decision in the morning. I get up about 4, start checking the radar out, start checking at least the road conditions in St. Cloud, because that's where I'm at. Superintendents start to communicate with each other now because their bus people are out on the roads typically, and some superintendents, because they live in the district, and eventually I will and be able to do this, are out on the roads just driving around, taking a look. We talked with a number of people. Phyllis really is, and Mike and Ellen are out on the roads typically for me. So when I get a hold of them, I've already found out quite a bit on what the road conditions are like in the district. We do try to make a decision one way or another by 6 o'clock. Unfortunately, even this year, we've been able to make it the night before because we've just known what was going to happen, and certainly we would do that if we were sure. Unfortunately, weather conditions change considerably between the nighttime that you go to bed and then when you get up in the morning, so sometimes it's worked to our advantage, sometimes it hasn't worked to our advantage. It kind of goes through then the checklist of things that I do then once the decision is made and how we make the decision. The decisions that I make are based on a lot of information from bus company employees to other bus people in other districts and superintendents in other districts. Do not make the decision lightly. Of all the things I probably have done this year, I would have never guessed that the most stressful thing that I do is get up in the morning to decide whether we're having school or not. It just has been kind of a surprise to me. And then once we make the decision, then it kind of goes through all of the people that we contact in order to get that out to the public. So in the end, I can live with people wondering what in the world was that superintendent trying to think of when he canceled school today. I can live with that. What I can't live with is a student, whether they're on a bus driving themselves, coming to school and getting hurt. That's the one thing I can't. So I do strongly err on the side of safety, and that's what I will continue to do. I just don't want anybody hurt because of being out in the weather. And that can be a deadly thing if you get stuck on a road when it's blizzard conditions. So anyway, that's kind of what I do in the morning. We try to make the decision by 6. Sometimes it's a questionable decision, sometimes it's a very difficult decision, sometimes it's an easy decision. But then we make the decision, we go through the process. We have 2 more days to make up now. When I came to the board, we had 2 less days to make up. We were at 5 and we had decided how we were going to do it. Now we're at 7, so we have 2 more days to add. I did talk with administrators and I sent out an email to staff, and I got a lot of sound advice. It probably, since I talked about the calendar, I probably haven't had so many various options that have been given to me. It all sounded in their own way. It was very helpful, to tell you the truth, although I can tell you that there's no one answer that staff had. It varied from kind of not making up the days at all to making them up with student contacts to a number of issues or things in between. I listened to them all. The principals and I did talk about it. The things that we can do, and one other thing I did talk about, as far as the roads, New London Spicer did plowed roads only the other day. I don't know if you guys noticed, so I did talk to the bus company about that. The problems that happen on that is that you can start down a plowed road, and all of a sudden now it's not a plowed road. Students don't know exactly what time you're going to pick them up, so you can have students waiting outside in the cold, not knowing exactly when the bus is coming. A plowed road can become an unplowed road very quickly if the wind's blowing. It drifts in. We have multiple townships, and believe me, it was an adventure figuring out who was going to plow what roads. So I think there are real some difficulties to go down that road. It sounds simplistic, it sounds great, but I think there's some real pieces in there that make it difficult for us to go down that road. When we started talking about days, you can have 2 more staff development days. Out of the 5, what we did was we added 2 student days on April 1st and March 31st. Okay? 30th or 31st?
Maybe.
Or May, so May. So that kind of added those days. Then we added 1 staff development full day. That was going to be on June 4th. The last day then would have been June 3rd for just the staff to finish up things, get the grades in. And then we added some flexible time on the way staff could make up items. Now that we have 2 more days to go through, that becomes more difficult. There really isn't any flexible. I talked about possibly adding, one suggestion was adding time at the end of the day. the tough piece about that, under normal conditions, I wouldn't have an issue. But we'd have to add about 20 minutes now to make up a day. The trouble with that is that now our seasons are so shortened for sports that if we take another 20 minutes to go further in, it'll even become a shorter season, and we run into practice issues and game issues and all of that. So I'm really not looking at that. We can add our student days. If we did that, it would be June 3rd and June 4th, and we'd move everything else back. We could, to tell you the truth, there's some real desire on my part to look at this option, which would be to move one of those days to next year. There are a number of things that are coming down the pike that we could really use time with staff to do and to give us more staff development. But in the end, when the administrators and I talked today, we couldn't get past the fact that we have 171 days, which isn't a lot of days. We lost 7. We made up a couple student days, but we're still at 166. So at least from our point of view, I guess we're leaning more towards just adding the 2 days to the end of the calendar for student contact days. Like I said, I think the teachers, and I, again, see great value to, are really interested in moving one to next year. It does get a little muddier when you do that, because now you have people retiring. If somebody doesn't show up, what are you going to do? You have to do a memorandum of understanding. I think all of those can be taken care of. So the 2 pieces that I would say is that we at least add 1 student contact day if we were to move 1 staff development day to next year. Or it's just add 2 student contact days this year. So I'd like to open that up for discussion, and I can certainly give my opinion on that. For us administrators, it was just about, we just missed so much school with the students. And that doesn't even count the late starts.
Now, how will that affect graduation then?
My suggestion would be that we leave seniors as is, you know, and as I say that, if you're watching, I expect a cheer. But we just leave it as it is. There were a couple days of testing that they weren't going to do. They typically have gotten 1 day because, well, I don't know how else to put it, senior skip day. You know, and the seniors have done what they said. They said if we do this, they will not do any of that type of thing, and they have not. They're going to graduate. I just don't see any purpose for bringing them back. You leave the graduation is, they do get a couple more days off, but they will have completed all of their required pieces before that.
How does this affect the ALC and Beacon then?
I think for the LC and Beacon, it depends on whether they're still, and I'm not sure, and I should have asked, had that, Lou. I'll have to do some checking to see if they're still going to be in session or not. If they're not, we'll have to work with the parents to decide what we're going to do with them.
I know they revised their calendar. They
Yeah.
are taking the 31st.
Yeah, and then, so they would go that day, and then I think, then it's an individual discussion with the principals and the parent on, do we need to get that, or what do we do with them if those schools are not in session? I guess probably my suggestion would be depending on the needs of the student, their IPs, on whether that is, but we look at that, I think, on an individual basis. Yeah.
Before these 2 recent snow days, we had discussed this a couple of months or so ago.
Yeah.
And we had 5 at that time?
We gave 3 to the teachers in different forms. One was, we added a staff development day.
Yeah.
One was they put some time before school or after school and some flexible, and then we also provided some staff development things before and after school. So it was pretty flexible for 3. Then the other 2 days, we added the one in April 1st and the one on May 31st.
Which was a Friday, right?
Yes, which will be a Friday.
Yeah.
That's part of the problem, is that it just doesn't work real well in June.
Okay.
You know, you bring them back for either 1 or 2 days the next week.
So we'll still keep that 31st day?
Yes.
And
Yep.
then the option is to go the following Monday and Tuesday?
Correct.
Or move a day next year somehow?
Yes. And go 1 day. Like I said, the only reason I bring that up is because there are so many new issues that we're really looking at with the staff. But in the end, truly, we couldn't get past the number of days we've lost. So if you ask me what our recommendation was after that discussion, it would be to add the 2 student contact days. there's no easy thing here.
But it's not every year we have this many days either.
Well, and next year, we built a calendar that has 5 days built into it. And I think some staff came up with original things, and the board did too, about talking about, you know, we have those end of the quarter days. Next year, if we ran into the same type of thing and we had an end of the quarter day coming, it's possible that we say do all the extra work that you have to do outside of the school hour, and we'll make that a student contact day, and then we don't have to make it up, because the staff are putting in an extreme amount of time to get ready for the grades and everything else. So that was brought up, and to tell you the truth, I just didn't think about it until after we had lost our last end of the quarter day. So I think there's some options, but you know, we've got 4 days in there, and then 1 in June if we run into bad weather. Those truly should cover us. Everybody I talked to said, this has never happened before, you know, first. So, you know, I don't think we're gonna run into this again.
Do the 7 days include the 2 days in December?
Yeah, the 7 days include everything.
So that was a couple of days that would
Yeah,
likely aren't going to happen again.
well, 1 day out of the kind of that health-related piece where we just wanted to make sure everything was safe. So 1 day was with that, the other day was a shortened day, but we don't have to make that up. So I guess, you know, just would like some input on the part of the board, and then I'll need a motion. And
I think we'll make a motion that you extend this school year 2 days,
yeah.
just exactly what you said.
And I do want to make sure that I say this at the board meeting. Our teachers put in an extremely large amount of time outside of their regular workday. You know, this does not have anything to do with a lack of appreciation on our part from all of the time that we know that the teachers do put in. It's extraordinary, been there, done that, I know how much time they put in. It really is coming down to the fact we just miss so much time with our kids.
Well, I'm sure the instructors would have rather been here teaching on the snow days.
Yep.
And the kids would have liked a few of them, but not on it on the end of the year.
Yeah, that's, I talked to one student one day, and he figured out, oh, this might come in June. So he kind of, he changed his tune at that point and said, no, I think I'd rather have school.
I kind of think too, if you're going to add 1 day, you might as well add 2 and get it over with. So
It
I
is a
would
cleaner
second
way
that
for us
motion.
to hand everything. My biggest fear now is that we're done with winter, but we're also done with spring. And we're gonna go into 90-degree weather for summer, and it's gonna hit on the first week in June.
Then you go on peak control for a day or something.
That'll be next. Yeah, we'll lose our electricity. That'll be another first for me. Yeah, I just, you know, it would have been just great if we wouldn't have had so many days. But this is not the only district that is going through this. I worked in St. Cloud for 16 years and never remembered more than 1 day of them missing school and all that time. You know, and they're up to, I think, 3 this year with that, which is just extraordinary for that district.
Okay, well, we have a motion by Bruce to follow Bob's recommendation.
And I second it.
Second by Cheryl. Okay, is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, personnel. Review and consider approval of Megan Weiser as a long-term substitute for Pam Pfeiffer, ECSE teacher, from approximately March 1st, 2015 to May 1st, 2015.
This will be kind of a flexible contract we have the person under, just because we don't know Pam could come back whenever doctor clears for it, so they'll, you know, we don't know if that'll be soon, we don't know if it'll be at the end of the school year or not at all.
Well, then we should amend this year instead of the May 31st to do June 4th.
On most of our ones that we've always given a closing date, even on the ones for maternity leave, you know, I don't know else. If you want a closing date, we just don't have. You can put a question mark on there. We just don't know.
It says specifically May 31st, so that's what I'm saying. Do you want to change that?
Yeah.
Open-ended?
Well, it says approximately.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it says approximately.
Yeah.
Approximately.
Yeah.
Approximately.
yeah, and some staff members have already planned some things at the end, so they, you know, they may be taking personal days those last couple days, we don't know. We can amend it however the board feels comfortable with that. We are at a little bit of a loss ourselves because we just,
I'll make the motion that we leave it just the way it is and improve it.
and I can certainly bring it back to the board if things change.
Yep.
We just don't know.
Okay, we have a motion by Deb, and a second by Lou. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, first report, C report, Deb.
I did not go to the C meeting. Same for the next one the district-wide got canceled because of snow.
The snow hit both of those, because I was slated to go to the C meeting also, and at that time I was still in the decision-making process of whether we were gonna have school or not that morning.
Deb sends out the information from the C organization, and they said that there was such a very small number of people there that they sent out all the information that you can go to the web page and pull it up yourself. They sent everybody a copy right to their email, just because that's how few there is, and there are some things we have to vote on at the next meeting for the budget for next year and stuff like that. So you want to make sure that at least a quorum or whatever the term is for a large group like that has the information to make that decision. So weather took care of both of those.
Okay. So we'll move on to Ed, Bob.
Just a couple things, just a reminder to the board that we have a work session tomorrow at 3 o'clock. The work session has 2 agenda items, although I'm not sure we'll get to the second one. I just added it in case we had some time. The meeting will be about an hour and a half long. Students of Excellence Banquet is tomorrow night, and I'll be attending that, so we have from 3 to about 4:30, maybe 4:45, before I have to get on the road to get there. We'll be talking about facility project first, kind of starting the discussion on where we ended with the JCI piece. All right, so we're just going to start, where do we go from here is really the focus of that. What do we do, where do we go, where do we start, that type of thing. The other one I did put on there was just for school safety. We're going to start having the discussion. I'll bring to the board's attention probably at that time of the possibility and the desire to have maybe a community meeting just to get their input on what they think. Certainly there's a lot of things that we can do on that, from putting a buzzer system into the door. There was a meeting today, and I did make it because some other things came up at Rocori. They have little ballistic shields that Rocori is buying. I think they're about 2 by 3, something like that, that will stop bullets. Amazing. Never thought we'd ever get to that point that we'd even have to discuss that type of thing. But there's an expense with that too. You're talking, $300 a pop. One of their businesses came through and I think bought one for every classroom. So it didn't, I don't believe it's coming from the coffers of the district itself. So, but I think to have that discussion with the board and also have maybe input from the community on what they feel comfortable with, because no matter what you do, there's a pro and a con for it. If you put a buzzer system on in the school, you lose accessibility by people. But I think we need to have that discussion and go from there. So just a reminder of that. And also there's a facility meeting just before that at 1:30 to 3. I think we have 1:30 to 3. That's really what we're doing, is we're just working on the capital budget and deciding that. We came up with about $800,000 worth of projects that we need to do. We have about $270,000 to do them all with. So we're certainly going to have to prioritize, and that facility group will be meeting at 1:30 before that to try to eliminate projects and just get down to what we have to do. All right, so we're meeting before that. Be aware that administration and I are talking about reductions to our budget right now. One of those will be staffing. So what you will get within before the next board meeting is recommendations from me, just saying these are some reductions that we're going to look at. When we do that, what I'll come down is I'll get you the information so you can kind of look at it, digest it, and I'll answer questions that you might have before the meeting. I'll be coming with a proposal, so what we need to do is kind of have a resolution proposing placing people on requested leave if we make those reductions. And then the next meeting at the end of May, then that would be where we would agree to do it if we're going to do it. In the meantime, staff have been kind of informed on what we're looking at doing, and they're meeting with Lori and I now talking about their concerns if we go forward with those types of things. I do believe that we do need to get our budget under control. For 2 years ago, 3 years ago, you were deficit spending $500,000 a year. Even with the new referendum, even with the additional dollars. And I know Bruce has access to our system that kind of does the projections. I know he's looked. I don't know if, Mark, you've had a chance to take a look, but even with the projections, the way we're going is that we have to run a tight budget, or we're going to run into financial difficulties again, even with the new referendum. So we do need to get this under control one way or another. Budget cuts are never fun for anyone, and they're even much worse when they involve people who are doing an excellent job for us. So I'll come forward with that. You'll be well aware even before the meeting what I'm looking at, the rationale. You'll also get, there's always a pro and a con.
What's the dollar amount you're looking at?
Right now, I'm probably looking at a couple $100,000.
200,000?
Yeah, but that could be a mixture of cuts coming from a different way, because remember, we're deficit spending, we projected 135, that was before some lane changes. So it's going to be more like 175, 150,000 that we're going to be deficit spending for this year. Could be even a little more than that. So it'll be a mixture of all kinds of cuts, and I'm not set on any particular thing. No matter what you cut, there's a cost that is associated with that. If you cut staff in any manner, you either lose a class, and I don't want to say we're losing a program because it could be a one-year piece. There's one class, for instance, that we're looking at that in the handbook at the high school it talks about it's offered every other year. Well, they've been offering it every year. You know, there is a piece that to deal with. And where's that limit? You know, 20 students, 10 students, 5 students? So you've got to come up with what's reasonable and do least harm to anybody, and that's what we're trying to do with at least what we're looking at right now. If you cut a section, you offer a number section, class sizes go up. I'll give an example. One of the classes that we're looking at is some land strength. Well, if you cut what we're looking at, there's an impact on the staff member. There can also be an impact on curriculum, because now can the staff member do the same thing if originally he was going to have 10 students in a class, now he may have 15 students in a class. So we've got to weigh the pros and the cons. And nothing is finalized at this point. I don't want to say anything is finalized. We're just looking at our options. That will come to the board, and the board will have to make some decisions on it. And my job is to give you the pros and cons. If what we're doing, this is what we save, but this is the negative impact it can have. We'll have a discussion about that at the first meeting in May, and then move forward in the second meeting in May for any kind of cuts. And in the meantime, send me questions. Give me a call, give me a concern, so that I know what's going on and what your thoughts are when you get this stuff. And in the end, the board might just say, no, we can't live with this. But there's a cost with that too, because your reserve fund is not very big. And we're going to have to start building that one way or another. And I wish this news was great. I wish I could say, hey, we're offering everything that we want to offer. But the reality is that you just cannot continue to spend the way that we've been spending. We can't. You know, and I think the board knew that, you know, we kind of went for a number that would work. But I think the board also knew that it was a number that couldn't sustain everything that we were doing. Any questions on that? This is a little vague. I'm not going to get into a whole lot of specifics, but you'll get it, those specifics, before we do anything.
When you're talking about the amount of kids per class,
Yep,
Okay, we're one school out of a whole bunch of schools in Minnesota.
yep,
Lots of them have the same issue as us.
yep.
Can we find out kind of if other schools have put a number to that? You know, I don't know, the other school's saying, we need 12 kids to make this class work, or we need 15 kids to make the class work. If there's another band trend, so they run 15, 20 kids in it, so at least we have an idea of what's out there.
I mean, everybody's little world is a little different. You know, I can tell you that St. Cloud would not be looking at the numbers that you're looking at here. They'd be looking at a lot higher numbers in everything. Now, part of the reason for that is just that there's so many more students, they're gonna have that, but their numbers are. I'll give you an example. We stand to lose approximately 13 kids possibly next year, partly because the class coming in right now is projected to be less than the class leaving. Okay, so about 13 kids. A loss of 15 students is equivalent to 1 FTE. So just that alone. And you're kind of looking at a 15-to-1 ratio, and there's a lot of things that go in there, but Paynesville is not there. They have a smaller ratio per student than that. What you're kind of aiming for is the 15-to-1, and we just don't have that now. Now, that doesn't mean we have to get there. But remember, there's always a cost, one way or another. And if you cut a college class, what does that mean? Will you lose a student? You know, we're meeting with New London Spicer next week, Gloria and I and one other staff member, and we're going to look at their interactive program. Because I think we have to look at everything we're able to do. And those types of programs can actually generate money for a district if you're the one that's broadcasting. So we want to look at those types of things. It also enables us to offer additional things to students without having as much of a cost. So we just need to look at all of the options that we have so that we can run the tightest budget we could possibly run, and with the best programming for students that we could possibly provide them. We have an adventure. You know, but we're going to have the discussion. And it won't be an easy discussion. Other questions for me? Okay, let's see, enrollment. Good news is we've been staying about as consistent as we can. I think the last piece I looked at was 1,000, which is, went up from where we were at. So that's really great news that we've been able to keep things as consistent as we've been able to do. One other piece about the budgets, we're also looking, we do have a couple retirements and those also help, so we're looking at all those types of things. Let's see, got that. Enrollment. New healthcare continues to be an adventure. I think that half the meetings that Linda and I have talked about things have dealt with the new healthcare and where we need to go with this in the district. Still more questions than there are answers. Any questions for me? That's what I got.
Okay. Anything else from anybody? Not meetings adjourned.